Good evening and welcome to the program. Our side language interpreter is William Silla. I'm James Smart. Tonight, crucial questions are emerging over the mysterious murder of Nairobi businessman Jacob Juma. Security analysts now suggest that the scene of that killing may have been stage managed. Emerging evidence suggests that the businessman may have been waylaid elsewhere, shot, and his car rolled into the side of the road. Contrary to the police reports that the businessman was shot 7 times in the head. Tonight, we can now report that he was shot 7 times, twice on the chest and neck. KTN's investigations editor, Dennis Onsarigo, reports on a high-profile murder that had all the hallmarks of the job of an elite hit squad. The report comes in just a short while within this newscast. Here is a short preview.
The 45-year-old businessman Jacob Juma prophesied about his death, saw it coming but did not manage to stop it. He walked right into a trap that appears to have been well planned and neatly executed. Friday 9:30 p.m., police officers at Karen police station receive a report of a shooting incident within Lenana area. Officers arriving at the scene discover the body of Jacob Juma. Jacob was not slumped on the steering wheel but lying to his left. The businessman was dead.
All right, and we're asking you on the big question tonight if you support Court's call for independent investigations into Jacob Juma's murder. We're asking you if you support Court's call for independent investigations into Jacob Juma's murder. We have that investigative piece coming on later on in this bulletin. We'd like to hear your thoughts on this live newscast. I will share with you as this live newscast goes on. All right, need to be sure to join Dennis Onsarigo for details on the murder of slain businessman Jacob Juma. Right now, though, let's catch up with the drama over the opposition versus the IEBC. And it came to pass that court leaders and their supporters would attempt to storm IEBC offices to eject the commissioners. And the showdown that followed as police attempted to maintain law and order. Let's bring in Chris Tairu, who was at the Anniversary Towers and was, unfortunately, one of those who sustained injuries during the chaos. Chris, good evening. What happened?
A very good evening to you. Well, it has been a hectic day for police in Nairobi town and in the city center, so to speak, after engaging CORD supporters in running battles. The CORD supporters had already started gathering early in the morning, but police had strict instructions not to allow any of the supporters, but only the people who are allowed inside or who had at least been given the green light to enter were the principals, but that did not happen. And so police were forced to hurl tear gas canisters at the crowd to forcefully evict them or disperse them from Anniversary Towers. I was there and witnessed what transpired, and I filed this report for you. Smart.
By 10 a.m., court supporters had already started gathering at the Anniversary Towers, which host IEBC offices, in a bid to forcefully eject the commissioners in office. This has been the second time that the court supporters and their leaders are trying to forcefully access the IEBC offices. The police were leaving nothing to chance, this time round armed with police dogs while others on police tankers, just to ensure that the situation does not turn chaotic. Chanting slogans in support of the opposition CORD and their leaders, the supporters barricaded University Way, waiting for their leaders. And after 3 hours, CORD principals arrived, ready to give their supporters direction on their next course of action.
Sisi kama wanakoa tumesema tukienda kwa uchaguzi wa haki na kweli, tukishindwa tutasalimu amri. Tumesema na hiyo, lakini tumesema tuwezi kurudi kishindoni. Hivyo kwa sababu tunasema no reforms, no election, ati wao wananuia kwamba kina Uhuru na Ruto watakuwa ofisani kwa ofisi. Hiyo inamaanisha there will be no leadership in this country.
All these while police keeping vigil despite provocation from some of the people in the crowd. And after the address, they started marching towards the main entrance of Anniversary Towers, all aimed at storming the IEBC offices. But police were under strict instructions not to allow the supporters inside the building. And after standoff between police and the CORD supporters, a section of people within the crowd started pelting police officers with stones. And after police were outnumbered by the already charged crowd, they hurled tear gas canisters at the crowds seeking to disperse them. The CORD principals, though guarded by a security team, were not spared either, as they were assisted to access their vehicles amid a thick smoke of tear gas. At this time, some university students had already joined in the demonstrations, and police hurled tear gas canisters inside the institution, disrupting ongoing exams. The water tankers came in handy in assisting police to disperse the road youths. Some journalists were not spared either, including yours truly, during the chaos as a stone landed on my right cheek. In the meantime, we could not verify whether the IEBC commissioners were in the office during the chaos, but the secretariat was busy with their daily functions. Well, these are the scenes that will be replicated every Monday, and as CORD principals have vowed, they will continue pitching tent at Anniversary Towers every Monday until IEBC commissioners feel the pressure and leave office. Meanwhile, similar scenarios were reported in other counties as the pressure to remove IEBC commissioners continues to pile. Chris Dairo, KTN News.
Right, what a chaotic Monday. Moving on, 2 days after rescue operations closed at the Huruma tragedy site, authorities are yet to establish the identity of 13 bodies retrieved from the collapsed building. The survivors, the immediate challenge is where to go after the rescue hole is closed tomorrow.
The site of the collapsed Huruma building, now a deserted field of death, where 51 people were crushed to death. But for some 140 people who escaped death by a whisker here, it's all back to square one. The bruises and fractures still the quickest reminder of just how close they came to death. For Siombua Madheka, the collapse of the Huruma building robbed her of more than just a livelihood. 2 of her children perished in the rubble. She has not even had time to fully mourn the double loss, as her third child, a Form 1 student, who narrowly survived the tragedy, is now waiting for school fees and a new uniform to report back to school. A tragic story shared by many of the parents here.
Alipoteza school uniform, textbook, exercise, yote alikuja nayo kwa nyumba, hata viatu ya shule. Sasa hana kitu hata chochote anaweza rudi nayo shule.
Ni wale watu wa kwanza wamepewa hiyo msaada ndogo ya 15k, sikuwa nimeipata. Sasa hakuna kitu niko nayo.
The Huruma CDF Social Hall, which is home to over 100 households that survived the tragedy, will be closed on Tuesday. A majority of those camping here still don't know where to go. For these children caught up in the middle of the tragedy, this hall has not only been their home, but also their only playing field for the past 1 week. Their parents are now scratching their heads over just where the next meal will come from.
For now, hakuna kitu naweza fanya, lazima ugoje utulize kwanza. Alafu ndio uanze kuendelea kufikiria vile utafanya, ndio utajisaidia baadaye.
On this day, the wives of the governors of Nairobi, Marsabit, Pokot, Bomet and Nakuru counties
visited the affected families and donated foodstuffs and 200,000 shillings in cash. Back at the site of the collapsed building, the machines have gone quiet and the tragedy site reopened to the public. The entire rescue operation has been closed, but 19 people are still reported missing.
Majority don't come back to say, when they are able to relink with their families, they never come back to say, I reported this person missing and I have been able to find them, and so this case could be closed.
Over 50 buildings in Huruma have been earmarked for demolition, but the operation was put on hold for a week to give tenants ample time to vacate the buildings. Muremi Mwangi, KTN News, Nairobi.
All right, and in neighboring Rwanda, at least 49 people have lost their lives and over 500 homes completely destroyed following landslide that rocked the northern part of the country. Torrential rains in the area about 30 kilometers from the capital city, Kigali, have displaced many families. Our reporter in Kigali, Eugene, now joins us on the phone for the latest on the disaster. Eugene, good evening. Just bring us up to speed. What exactly happened and what's the death toll as we speak now?
Smart, you rightly put it. Of course, over the weekend, that is on Saturday and Sunday, the country has been receiving some rains which have led to the bursting of riverbanks, that is the Nyabarongo River, and of course the areas that have been worst hit or affected by this torrential rain is definitely the northern province of the country, about 8 kilometers from the capital city of Kigali. Now, over 500 homes have been actually totally affected, and the death toll, according to government officials, is standing at 49. And according to Rwanda's Minister for Refugees and Disaster Management, it is stated that most of the victims live in an area called the Kenke district, where 34 deaths have been recorded, more than 500 homes completely destroyed, and 4 have been definitely hospitalized. Smart.
Well, Eugene and I will bring us to speed with the latest from Rwanda. Thank you very much for that update. Now, just a week after the Huruma building tragedy, another 6-story building collapsed in the Nyali area in Mombasa. The exterior part of the Nyali Mall caved in early this morning. The building is said to have housed several business premises, including a supermarket and a nightclub. Authorities say no one was injured. All right, now we'd like to take a short break, but do remember we're asking you tonight if you support court's call for an independent investigations into Jacob Juma's murder. Tweet us at KTN News, at James Smart, or at KTN Kenya. I'd like to hear your thoughts and opinions of that view. We do take a short break. When we come back, we have this. All right, welcome back to Monday Night News. Tonight, crucial questions are emerging over the mysterious murder of Nairobi businessman Jacob Juma. Security analysts now suggest that the scene of that killing may have been stage managed. Emerging evidence suggests that the businessman may have been waylaid elsewhere, shot, and his car rolled into the side of the road. Contrary to police reports that the businessman was shot 7 times in the head, tonight we can now report that he was shot 7 times, twice on the chest and neck. KTN's investigative editor, Dennis Onsarigo, reports on a high-profile murder that had all the hallmarks of the job of an elite hit squad. This report comes in just a short while within this newscast. Here, though, is a short preview.
There's a lot of details there that the only people who would know that these things had not been disturbed, that they were in the vehicle, are either the police or the killers.
Jacob Juma was a man of many worlds. He stepped on the toes of those in and out of government, at times stretching his war of words into the corridors of justice. Juma had sued and had been sued by several people in a string of court cases touching on crime and property, running into billions of shillings. A city businessman who who had been sued by Juma for allegedly threatening to take his life in a lawsuit that has been in court for many years now. Juma had been particularly vocal on the controversial Eurobond saga. Only last month, he took on the central bank governor over his failure to produce documents on how Eurobond proceeds were secured, wired and used in the country. Juma had sensationally claimed that top government officials were behind the theft of the Eurobond proceeds and even went ahead to claim there were plans to cover up the theft of 100 billion shillings, part of the Eurobond proceeds, by senior figures in the country. Close friends of the slain businessman have told KTN News that the telltale signs of threats on Juma's life are well captured on his Twitter handle between the 17th of April last month up until his death. On the night the city controversial businessman was killed, he had spent some time with his lawyer before leaving for Brookside Drive and later left for home. Jacob is believed to have met another powerful individual before meeting his lawyer and later heading home. KTN News has now learned that for at least 2 weeks, Juma had either been closely trailed or monitored by a group of people before his cold-blood murder on Thursday night. A source has singled out at least 2 saloon cars as the vehicles that trailed the businessman before he was gunned down along Lenana area near the southern bypass. With the National Police having failed its first test of securing a crime scene that has now turned the spotlight on its effectiveness of investigating mysterious murders, the focus is now on nailing those behind Juma's killing. The 45-year-old businessman Jacob Juma prophesied about his death, saw it coming but did not manage to stop it. He walked right into a trap that appears to have been well planned and neatly executed. Friday 9:30 p.m., police officers at Karen police station receive a report of a shooting incident within Lenana area. Officers arriving at the scene discover the body of Jacob Juma. Jacob was not slumped on the steering wheel but lying to his left. The businessman was dead. His expensive Rolex watch, 2 mobile phones and 6,000 shillings were left intact. The gunman or gunmen drove off or walked away. A closer look at Jacob Juma's vehicle revealed that the right-hand side backseat window was shattered. The front driver's window, despite taking a bullet hit, remained intact. The bullets appears to have gone through the backseat window, exiting through the windscreen of the motor vehicle. Police insisted the businessman was shot and died at the scene of the shooting. KTN's Crime and Investigations Desk can authoritatively report that Jacob Juma's killers did not shoot and kill him at the spot where his motor vehicle was discovered. The shooting might have been done elsewhere, and this is the reason why. Jacob Juma last spoke to a friend at around 8:20 p.m. before leaving his apartment houses in Brookside Drive. It will have taken the businessman less than 45 minutes to pass through this spot on Gong Road. This was before going under the underpass of the southern bypass. More than 1 hour 30 minutes later, Jacob Juma had not passed through this spot, let alone get to his home in Karen. If the slain businessman Jacob Juma was using his normal route home, then this road on my left is the one that goes to Karen. How he ended up 30 meters away from here, under that street light, it's a question police investigators must answer. Remember, there are no skid marks on the road, indicating that maybe there was no struggle when the man was being shot. The turnoff heads to Mombasa Road. Where was Jacob Juma heading to? Or what did he see in front of him to make him change his mind and drive to his left instead of proceeding to the route he normally uses? The lead spends several hours at the junction monitoring the movement of motor vehicles heading downhill to Karen and those taking a slight left into Mombasa Road. The least speed the vehicles were doing was 60 kilometers per hour. If indeed Jacob Juma was driving at the same or faster speed than the vehicles we monitored, drive-by shooting gunmen ambushing him from his right-hand side might have been doing the same speed like he was or slightly higher.
If the police would confirm that they are checking the surveillance footage to track the movement of the vehicle, we would obviously have many more answers. You see, we don't know how many bullets missed the car. If the car, in fact, did not come to a halt within close proximity of where the attack started, if it was moved from somewhere else, I think we don't know how many rounds were actually fired.
On noticing the gunman, Juma will either have sped off onwards to Karen after the sound of the first shot or lost control of the vehicle and veered off the road. KTN has learned that not a single skid mark was discovered on the tarmac road where police insist the shooting started from. Jacob Juma did not try to save his life. Instead, going by the police account, Jacob Juma, after being shot several times, simply slowed down his motor vehicle, drove off the highway before parking his car, lay on his left-hand side, and died. Initially, police investigations report had all the indications that Jacob Juma's motor vehicle might have been forced off the road by another motor vehicle before he was shot dead. Apart from some paint suspected to have come off Juma's vehicle onto a streetlight lamppost, his motor vehicle was intact.
He hit a lamppost, and the lamppost did not break off. I would think that either the vehicle was not traveling very quickly, because most of the lampposts, even in this country now, new ones, are designed to crumple, to break under the impact of a vehicle, or the front end of the vehicle would be damaged, because the vehicles, even if they're 6, 7 years old, even if it's a Mercedes, if you will, do have crumple zones. They are designed to give way, especially if you hit a pedestrian.
The vegetation was disturbed not by a speeding motor vehicle that abruptly came to a stop, but police officers who arrived to inspect the scene of the crime. KTN News has learned that Jacob Juma's motor vehicle had a double glass car window that could stand firepower. It is not clear if the vehicle was bulletproof or the double glass reinforcement was a special feature on the car. This explains why the driver's window remained intact despite taking several bullet hits. It is suspected that another object was used to break down the backseat window of the car. This was meant to paint a picture of a car that came under fire. KTN News investigation suggests that the businessman was shot twice in the chest, with the bullets leaving a gaping hole on his back. A position that challenges the police theory that the businessman was shot while his motor vehicle was in motion. Just look at the class of the bullets on the motor vehicle's body. It would have been impossible to shoot so many bullets in one area if the car was moving.
The police are giving their version of events based on what appears to be no eyewitnesses. There's a report that several administration police officers who were in the vicinity called Karen. They didn't go to the scene. Why? Are they being interviewed now as to what they heard?
Juma's motor vehicle had 2 bullet holes on the windscreen. This is what police normally refer to as exit bullet holes. If Juma took the 2 bullets to his chest, a ballistic expert has told KTN News, bullet entry holes will have been on the windscreen of his motor vehicle. If Jacob Juma was shot from the right side of his motor vehicle, how did he end up with entry wounds on his chest? KTN has learned that Jacob Juma's right hand was badly damaged. In what appears as a victim who saw at close range, his killers raised his hand to defend himself from their killer guns before they gunned him down. What is shocking is that not a single bullet cartridge was discovered at the scene of the shooting, raising eyebrows about the identity of the gunmen and their motive.
So we don't know exactly when he got to that spot. So we don't even know what the traffic was like. The Safaricom surveillance system should be able to show other vehicles in the area, if there were any, when the attack occurred. And then the drivers in those vehicles can be traced and asked, what did you see?
Well-placed sources have told KTN News that the gunmen might have armed themselves with a cartridge catcher, a rare gadget attached to a gun to capture bullet cartridges, and one that stops them from flying all over. It is not possible that the gunmen had the time to shoot the businessman in a drive-by shooting, disembark from their getaway motor vehicle, physically look for their cartridges before leaving the scene of the murder.
Cases could not be found, and therefore this is a professional assassination. May or may not be true. We don't know how well the crime scene was secured or gone over by the police. In other words, if the vehicle moved, if it did move after the shooting started, bullets would have missed. And those bullets could be in trees. Those bullets could be around. And the shell casings could be elsewhere. Because actually the theory that the shell casings were all collected and taken away, or that there was a bag on the AK-47 does speak to a very high level of professionalism and also a great deal of time to actually police up the brass, to actually go out and secure, for criminals to secure the kill zone and clean up the crime scene themselves.
At 9:30 p.m., according to those who live in Karen, the road is quite busy with those heading to the central business district or exiting town. Placed sources have told KTN the gunmen who executed Jacob Juma must have been individuals with specialized training and have access to cartridge catchers, a preserve of security forces.
Well, that's actually impossible, that there are no shell casings. Shell casings pop out of the magazine. They pop out of the weapon, basically. And I think they would have been, depending on how long the shooting took place, if he was shot by a motorcycle, boda next to him, they could have both been moving along. And so the shell casings would be scattered the length of, however, perhaps the time it took to fire out the entire magazine. I think also, unless every bullet hit him, there would be bullets inside the vehicle.
Indeed, if Jacob Juma was shot at the scene of his murder, he must have been flagged down by a vehicle that appeared to belong to a recognized institution. He then must have brought his car into a complete stop before realizing those flagging him down were out to kill him.
If by chance it happens that a police officer is involved in causing the death of this gentleman, then that police officer would be treated like any other criminal.
Jacob Juma's motor vehicle had bloodstains on the windscreen, raising questions about the position of his shooters. Where were they stationed during the shooting? Could it be the gunmen were sitting directly behind Jacob Juma's vehicle? Could it be Jacob Juma was abducted before he was finally shot on his way home? In March last year, a Nairobi businessman Paul Ngugi Karaoke slowed down at a bumper along Forest Road when gunmen shot him at close range. Records at the city mortuary indicate that Karaoke's body had 2 bullets in his lower right abdomen, 2 on his neck, 1 on his chest, and another in his right arm. Again, police were unable to discover any bullet cartridges from the scene of the shooting. Paul Ngugi was in the company of a woman who survived the attack with a scratch on her chin. By the time the incident was taking place, police were grappling with 20 other mysterious murders in the city. Police had suspected a licensed hit squad could have been behind the killings. Police are now appealing to anyone out there to volunteer any information about who will have been behind Jacob Juma's murder.
From where he left Brookside all the way to where we found the vehicle. If the police do not confirm that the autopsy will involve taking the bullets out of the body to find out the caliber of the weapon that was used, and if a weapon is recovered, to be able to match it as the weapon used to kill Jacob Juma. If the bullets go to the grave with Jacob Juma, they won't be able to get matched to the weapon if a weapon is recovered. The lack of shell casings is a problem because shell casings are generally stamped with their date of manufacture, the lot number. You can read a lot in the shell casing. And perhaps we could find out where they were manufactured. We know that the Kenya Ordnance Factory in Eldoret produces ammunition for 9mm, for AK-47s, for G3s.
The motive of his killing remains unclear, and the National Police Service is under pressure to to arrest and prosecute is faceless killers. Denson Sarigo, The Lead, KTN News.
All right, welcome back. Now time for your business fix. Now, Sinton Investment today released the first corporate governance index. The index comes on the backdrop of the recent irregularities in corporate governance by some of Kenya's listed company. According to the index, KCB Group, Safaricom, and Standard Chartered, Kenya carried the most comprehensive score, ranking above 80%, while Kenya Orchards ranks the least at 10.4% in corporate governance. On gender diversity, Barclays Bank, Kenya ranked first with a 50% score, followed by Safaricom with 44%, and Pumias Sugar with 36.3%. TransCentury ranked lowest in terms of ethnic diversity, with 7.5%. Its employees coming in the same ethnicity. Now, Sinton Investment says good corporate governance and sound professional ethics are essential to well-functioning markets, which in turn protect interests of the investing public and are key to vibrancy, reducing investor losses and providing a platform for firms and the economy to grow in a sustainable manner.
And sophisticated investors are now looking beyond valuation, beyond only financial ratios, and questioning the level of governance and professional ethics within any sort of an organization. So that's the first key specific area, is poor corporate governance and ethics, where we really point out that it's the responsibility of the board and senior management in any organization to ensure that corporate governance and professional ethics is fully adhered to. Then we move to the other side, which is now due diligence and supervision. In as much as it's the board's responsibility to ensure corporate governance and ethics, there is a due diligence and supervisory capability which has to be undertaken to ensure investors do not suffer any corporate governance related losses.
All right, now Pan Paper Mills, company in receivership, joint receivers have officially handed over the mill's assets to its new investor, Talchodan Limited, a subsidiary of Fry Group of Companies. The handover follows the signing of a sale and purchase agreement between the receivers of the paper mill and investor, Talchodan Limited. Talchodan Limited and the Rye Group chairman just once were committed to revive the paper and pulp manufacturing operations of the plant, and operations at the plant are likely to commence in under 4 months.
With a new investor coming on board, we are talking about opportunities for even other employees that used to be there before, that have been out of a job for some time, and other residents.
We are going to do our best, and we will make paper. I have not bought this plant, the speculation, I wanted timber license and I want this. Why would I pay 900 million shillings to get a timber license?
Anybody who is against the revival of pen paper, I can tell you, if you are a politician, you are writing your political obituary.
All right, now a group of persons living with disability in Kilifi County, with the help of Food and Agriculture Organization, FOA, have emerged conservation agriculture that is now enabling them to put food on their tables as well as create wealth and eliminate poverty. Here now is KTN's Philip Ketani with this week's edition of The Next Frontier.
Welcome to Kilifi County, and on today's episode we visit this group of farmers whom, despite their physical disability, they have refused to be looked down upon and have risen above all the challenges life has thrown their way to fend for themselves and put food on their tables.
Tulianzisha 2015, ilikuwa ni mwezi wa 6 huko. Tulianza na miradi tofauti, kwanza ya kufanya kutengeneza project za mambo ya skonzi. Halafu baadaye tulipata changamoto kadha wa kadha, lakini kwa vile ilikuwa tumeamua kama walemavu tunataka maendeleo, tukaona tusikufe moyo.
It's no secret, farming can be physically demanding, but according to this group of farmers, having a disability doesn't necessarily mean the end of a farming career.
Kwa hata tunatumia vifaa vile vyetu vya majembe kufanya kuchimba, hatujafahamu zaidi kwamba unapochimba mchanga kumbe una cause soil erosion, na pia unafanya ile nguvu ya ile mchanga, pengine wakati wa mvua ikikuja inatoka na ile nguvu.
According to this special group of farmers, the majority of disabled people in Kilifi County face immense challenges in gaining a livelihood.
Tuwe na morali zaidi, tusione mlemavu akiombaomba huko, tukaona mlemavu amedharahulika na kuna kitu ambayo mlemavu anaweza kufanya. Ndio wale wenzetu wakasema disability is not an ability.
With that in mind, these farmers are now setting the pace as farmers that have their environment in mind as they employ conservation agriculture in their farming activities.
Saizi tuafurahia make sasa hapa Rabai sisi wenyewe tunawafanya hii kilimo cha hifadhi. Ndio wa kwanza kabisa katika kutengeneza kazi vizuri, hata kushinda wale ambao ni miguu mizima na hawajafuatilia kitu kama hii.
With the help and knowledge from Food and Agricultural Organization FAO, these farmers have received and learned how to use these tools that are designed to use minimum energy with maximum returns and with little or no damage to the soil structure.
The project focuses on smallholder farmers in the coastal regions and also in the drier areas of Kenya in Eastern Province.
So far, the harvest from the small piece of land has been very encouraging.
Ikiwa hii kaploti ka 408 meter square tumetoa nini 54 kgs. What about kama tumepata kama 1 acre?
They say disability is not an inability, and for these farmers from Rabai in Kilifi County, their disability was not enough to keep them at home, and they even went further to learn new agricultural practices that help conserve their farms as well as bring them money at the end of the day. Philip KTN for the Next Frontier.
Right now, time for sports news. Well, Kenya has been fined over $1 million shillings for chaos witnessed between Kenya's Harambee Stars and Guinea-Bissau in African Cup of Nations qualifier. Kenya has been slapped with $1 million shillings fine by the African Football and Governing Body, CAF, following the events that ensued during an AFCON qualifier match between Harambee Stars and Guinea-Bissau at the Nyayo National Stadium. The match was halted for over 20 minutes as running battles and tear gas canisters rented the air. CAF disciplinary board, which had its sitting on Monday, April in Johannesburg, South Africa, came to a decision to fine Kenya because of the funds trouble. Meanwhile, a total of 50 teams will take part in this year's 10th edition of the Amaco International Volleyball Tournament that will be held at Eldoret Polytechnic from the 13th to the 15th of May. The tournament's main sponsor revealed this year's sponsorship will be worth 5 million Kenya shillings, while the Paul Bitok Foundation added 130,000 to take care of the foreign teams. The annual tournament that seeks to nurture talent will see teams from across the East African region take part, with the winner expected to bag 100,000 shillings, while the runners-up and second runners-up will pocket 75,000 and 50,000 shillings respectively.
Sponsoring this event to the tune of 5 million Kenya shillings.
Unfortunately, our leading female players will not be in Eldoret because the national team is currently training and they will be departing for Puerto Rico on 17th of this month.
And internationally, UEFA President Michel Platini will resign from European football's governing body after failing to have a 6-year ban from football overturned. A court of arbitration for sport panel reduced the ban to 4 years on Monday. Following the judgment, the 60-year-old said he would be stepping down. Platini and former FIFA counterpart Sepp Blatter were last year found guilty of ethics breaches over 2 million Swiss franc disloyal payment. The pair, who were there from 8 to 6 years, banned by the appeals committee. The two said the payment in 2011 was made for consultancy work.
Résultat, puis tout à l'heure, nous allons donner une conférence de presse et nous allons donner un billet à tous les maires, le premier billet dans chaque ville de chaque ville. Voilà, sur cette forme.
Les couleurs, c'est... Non, ce n'est pas le billet.
Now to that moment of the big question, and we asked you if you support COD's call for independent investigations into Jacob Juma's murder. Most of you have had your say on Twitter, but Issa Hassan says yes, this enables proper investigations and justice to be found. Colin Sowor on Twitter says the death of Jacob Juma is a hot potato. It seems senior state officers have whims to call on the death. Jimmy Gakio, however, says no, the law should be allowed to take its course without political pressure or interference. A last one from Njuguna Mgenge says no, we must have faith in our institutions. It may not be perfect, but it is credible. That's where we end it on Monday News. Gotta love you and leave you. Thank you very much. My name is James Smart.